Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 24th meeting of the Hampstead School Board. I am Karen Yasenka, Vice Chair. I'll be chairing the meeting this evening because Chair Caitlin Parnell is unavailable. Call to order, please.
Jason Giard.
Here.
David Smith.
Here.
Jim Sweeney. Karen Yasenka.
Here.
Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Metzler.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes. You'll see before you 3 sets from September 10th, a regular and non-public, and our workshop meeting, which was to go over our goals. When you've had a minute to look at those, I'll accept a motion to accept them.
You made a motion, right?
No, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments?
There are none tonight.
Thank you. Current business, we have a donation from the Hampstead Mothers Club.
Yes, we would like the board to take action. This is from Principal Collins and Principal Danola to request the board approval of a $1,500 donation for the central school and a $1,500 donation for the middle school from the Hampstead Mothers Club per policy KCD, public gifts and donations.
Does anybody have any questions?
Any plan of it, what the intended use is?
They were allowing the principals to make that determination. So nothing.
Nothing yet. Okay, thank you. I just think it'd be good if maybe when there is the plan, just to come here and communicate what that is, just to the public.
I can get that back in executive summary form as well, if you want.
Whatever is best, you know. I know they attend sometime, you know, so if they want to, at one of the times that they do a report out, and they want to say it then, whatever.
Perfect.
You have a motion to accept?
Motioned.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Wanted to, if I could,
Sure.
we want to thank the Hampstead Mothers Club. I mean, they do an awful lot for our school district, and just a great group, very generous, and you know, thank them for their support and all they do for all our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next, distance learning. Mr. Flynn.
All right. So thanks for having me back. I'm here, believe it or not, I believe it was the night I was introduced, the board took action to support some equipment for some of our middle school learners to take a class virtually, essentially, through some distance learning equipment at Pinkerton Academy. What I brought is some stills. I'm not going to use students' names, but I'm going to give you an idea of what we've done. The tech department has done a phenomenal job, which I mentioned a couple weeks ago, installing this equipment, but it's amazing stuff, really. What happens is each day our students attend Algebra 2 at Pinkerton, and in these stills you'll be able to see a couple things. One, they see what's going on in the classroom at Pinkerton via their short throw projector. So whatever's projecting in that classroom is projecting within our walls at Hampstead. And then in the top part of the screen, you'll see the real reason for this purchase of this equipment was the interaction with the teacher. So not only are they able to see what's going on the whiteboard essentially, but they're also seeing the presentation from the teacher. And then down below, what was even more interesting to me is the interaction that they have with, her name is Miss Garvey at Pinkerton. So Mrs. Garvey will walk over to the camera and say, Mike, can you please show me your answers? They'll put their work under the camera. She sees the work at Pinkerton. She's able to work with them on making corrections or adjustments, or making sure they're on target. So really it is an interactive setup that you supported for these students to take this course. In regards to tests and quizzes are, or any performance assessment is delivered to Ms. Wallace at the middle school, in which Ms. Wallace gives the assessment and returns. It's really a working relationship between Mrs. Garvey and Mrs. Wallace and these two students. So far this year, there's been 0 interruptions, 0 non-connections, so to speak. Everything's worked flawlessly, and the students are really achieving pretty high level type stuff. In forecasting for the next couple of years, we already see 1 or 2 students perhaps taking this course next year, and I'm actually working with the tech department to see how we can use this software and hardware to do some learning for our staff. There's quite a few interactive things that we can sign up for to help our staff grow in different professional areas. Questions?
How many kids are in that class?
Currently 2,
Just 2.
yes.
And how long is this? I can't remember.
50 minutes a day.
Yeah, I can't remember. When was this first put in place? Do you know?
To my knowledge,
I can't recall.
that this is an upgraded thing. I don't know who had taken it previously. I couldn't speak to
I
it.
think it varied from year to year, so I think we had a year where.
I think there was a time where people
4 or
were
5
going back
years?
and forth too, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, 4 or 5 years anyway, yeah.
And it fits perfect in the schedule too. So it didn't disrupt their schedule, which made it even better.
Anybody have any questions?
I'd like to compliment Ms. Wallace and Mrs. Garvey, because if there's a project coming up or there's in-class work, all the materials are delivered ahead of time. They have a really good working relationship. So the students are literally doing what is going on in that class at Pinkerton, no matter what.
So your predecessor had said that Pinkerton was going to be looking at new hardware possibly. Is there any information to this?
So with this purchase, we feel safe in the tech department that we'll be fine.
Okay.
That there's, if they decide to. The other thing is there's not just our 2 gentlemen in that class, there are a couple other from multiple districts in that class. So I don't see a full-scale change at all.
So I think, this, what you're seeing here is this is like day-to-day operation, distance learning. The opportunities to have podcasts or one-offs, professional development, those sorts of things, those can take place periodically throughout the year. This is interesting because this is literally they go to a class every day, and it's like they're in the class even though they're sitting in Hampstead. The class is taking place at Pinkerton. But I see us using this periodically throughout the year for other distance learning opportunities, not just for the day-to-day operations for an algebra class or some other high-level class that we have 8th graders that are capable of achieving at high levels.
So what grade are they in?
8th grade.
8th grade. And I'm refresh my memory, if you know, how were they chosen? Did they self-select, or were they, had to meet some criteria for this, or?
I don't want, that was prior to me. I would have assumed that there was benchmarks that they had to hit in order to take the class, yeah.
Just curious.
So if,
Not that students are tracked, but they need to meet the needs of all students. So we have classes, as you know, in 8th grade, there's a high-level math class. So this would be beyond that high-level math class. So in the world of, like, if you were thinking about a high school program of studies, if you were thinking this is kind of like the IB program, that would be a step beyond the AP program. I mean, this is truly a gifted program.
Yep.
So we're meeting the needs of all students, because their needs would not be met in math in our current program of studies. So it could be 2, it could be 7, it could be 12 in any given year, or you may not have anybody that meets that criteria. We hope not, but
Yeah.
Mrs. Wallace does a great job making sure that kids are challenged, students are challenged, and that they're placed correctly. and gives people an opportunity to take those challenges on, even if they were just almost not ready. She provides the support. How does she do that? She'll come in an hour before school, and she'll meet individually with those students on her own time to do wraparound services to make sure that they can handle, that next challenge. I just find that to be incredible. She just does a great job, and certainly Hampstead benefits from people like Mrs. Wallace and how much they go above and beyond what they're required to do.
Good, and I think that was good to say and to hear, because I think people in town need to know that this is one of the things that's happening in our school, where we go above and beyond to help personalize and individualize work for our students.
Absolutely.
So is that an opportunity for someone in English or writing or art too? Is it just?
Yeah, so we have all that data analysis of the students, and if that student in language arts or whatever it may be, that course offering is connecting, that's something that we're continually analyzing. It just seems as though math typically is where some students separate themselves with the skills specifically. But yeah, we're consistently analyzing the needs of our students.
Well, the two places where it's clearly delineated, is math and perhaps the languages, like if they're prepared for an upper level class that we don't, English, history, maybe science to some degree, depending. And so I think that's what we want to see this grow into, is really an extension of our ventures program in terms of what do we do for students that are gifted, or obviously meeting the needs of all people, so all students, staff and students, making sure we take advantage of this distance learning, because it puts us wherever we need to be to get that job done. So to your point, that's my hope. I hope that we're able to grow this out into the other disciplines. Now it's about, is Pinkerton ready to take that on? That's a discussion I have to have with Dr. Powers,
That's what I was going to ask, is there any discussions happening right now about furthering this into more? Or is it something like, to your point, looking at the data, figuring it out in years forward, or is there an active discussion going on today?
Yeah, the active discussion, well, at my level anyway, with Dr. Powers, we've been talking about this for quite some time, so he's really excited about this. The challenge for Pinkerton sometimes is what they're doing for Hampstead, and there's other communities, and they're doing things with us because of our readiness that they may not be doing in other sending schools, and so there are always challenges with that, from transportation to something with gifted math students. So the short answer is yes, we want to expand on that, and I really appreciated his flexibility to be able to do, to meet the needs of the individual sending schools, which is not necessarily the exact same in every instance, right? Mm-hmm. So this was something that, that they made sure it happened. Now, Mr. Flynn will be in contact with their department heads as we grow this out to see what their readiness is.
Yep, we start actually meeting with them next month, so each curricular area meets with Pinkerton to make sure that we're on track, we're above, and so forth and beyond.
That's cool.
Yeah, as part of my goals, and it was really to be a more powerful liaison for Hampstead's relationship with Pinkerton. I've done it, but to be more involved in the day-to-day operations about what we do with our programs and how we grow them out. So we'll be doing that together.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. Next up are our school board goals. This is the third time that we've had a look at them, and if after discussion we're ready, it would be nice to adopt them for the following year. So if everyone please take a look at them. I have a motion to accept the Hampstead School Board goals for the school year 2021 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
on your goals, as a liaison, moving into my goals, which is the next item, right? So my hope is, as looking at your goals and looking at my goals, right, that so some of these will will go beyond 8th grade for our students, right? So, for instance, looking at student well-being, what are we doing to assist and to help at Pinkerton with grades 9 through 12, whether it's attendance or whether it's, transitions, all those sorts of things, I think will be factors moving forward as we look at, as I spoke just minutes ago, about trying to be a stronger liaison for our students, even once they leave us in 8th grade and go to Pinkerton. That's really a focus, and so we're working closely on that. So moving into my goals?
Yep,
Okay.
your goals are next.
So, I brought goals to the Timberlane board that were Timberlane specific, and these are obviously Hampstead specific. And so I was very clear with them, because we've had these conversations at an SAU level, right? The comfort level that Hampstead has always been sensitive to let the Timberlane goals be Timberlane goals and vice versa, to not get those two crossed over, although they are my goals and they are in both districts. Several questions arose, and all of a sudden they started talking about SAU goals, which was the first I'd ever heard of writing SAU goals. That was like changing the rules in the middle of the game, and so I was like,
Who's doing SAU role?
nobody is, but one of the Timberlane members had asked, well, is there an SAU finance goal? Is it? There aren't any SAU goals. That's not what we did. What we agreed upon, which I was very clear on, what we agreed upon was I would take the board goals from either district and align my goals with your goals, right? Which is what I've done for Hampstead. It's what I did in the other district as well. Some of the questions were, well, are your goals aligned with a strategic plan? I go, well, that's a simple yes or no. If you didn't align your goals with a strategic plan, then that would be a no. But if you aligned your goals with a strategic plan, that would be a yes. Because the agreement was that I would align my goals with the school board goals. That was a natural progression. So that's what I've done in both districts, and that's what you can look forward to seeing next Wednesday, is your goals and Timberlane goals written off of your goals. So I aligned them as closely as I could, and took a look at, obviously, these 4 areas, right? Academics, programs and practices, climate, culture, and public relations, facilities, improvements, and business and budgeting. And made them consistent in the 2 districts, again, aligning them with the school board's goals, and hopefully, hopefully we can get these endorsed next Wednesday, and these will be our goals. Now, I do believe there'll be a delay, primarily because Timberlane wanted to weigh in more on their goals now, so I'm waiting for a document from their chair, so I'm not sure that we'll be prepared to vote on those goals October 2nd. I had already indicated I would not be at the October 16th meeting, because I'm away, so I'm not quite sure when that will take place. But I didn't know if you had any questions about the Hampstead-specific goals. Certainly prepared to address them. I'm not
still
going to
reading
read them to you.
Yeah, too, this is the first time seeing them, as far as.
The first time we're seeing these, so we're going to take a look at them, okay?
Are they not in that?
They were in the packet, but it was actually our first meeting of the year, so it was in August.
Oh.
Actually, though, I believe at that meeting they were tabled, but they were in the packets.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your summer work on your goals, which made it easier to pull my goals together. I know your goals have been modified a bit, but they have not been significantly changed in any way. So it was, myself and Mr. Flynn writing goals to align with your goals was not a challenge. It was something that was pretty easy to get to you. Madam Chair, if you would, in the sake of time, you could read these on your own, and if you have anything to work, you could send it to me, and I could incorporate, or we could have a discussion tonight, or any other variation of how you'd like to deal with these goals.
Well, it's not that long. I just read slowly, I guess. Hold on. No, I mean, I think they're fine, and as you said, they align with ours, which is what we ask for. So you've broken this out, though, into 4 main goals, and then little subsections under each one. So if someone were to ask you, Dr. Metzler, how many goals do you have for Hampstead, what would you say? 4 or what, 26 if you go through all these?
Well, I would say it's the bigger number, so I'd say that those are categories, not necessarily goals. And
Okay.
I'd say within the categories, there's a number of goals. And, I never find this to be an exhaustive or necessarily a comprehensive list. There's other work that needs to be done, and how we capture that and put it in these goals. I think this is more of a priority of the work, in a sense. I would say there's more goals than what's here, but, people will look at our goals package in both districts and say that's pretty aggressive if you're seeing 50, 60 goals. But capturing the priority of the work, I think, is in categories is really the task that we try, and so it captures the essence of the work.
No, I think 4 from Hampstead is reasonable. May I ask how many goals you did for Timberlane?
Don't know the exact number, but it's very similar. They're
Okay.
not disproportionate, because I'm literally spending half my time in both places, so I'm trying to make sure that I think of things in that context of, 50%, 50%, and trying to, so things look a little more balanced than perhaps people had been accustomed to in the past.
Okay.
And I'm more than comfortable doing this a number of ways if you want. I mean, members can send them through you or through Caitlin, any suggestions they'd like to see incorporated, and I'll make sure that you see them and that they'll be there for Wednesday or whenever we eventually get around to voting them at the SAU level, which is fine. I'm not married to the language in these goals. I think if it's not capturing, if I'm missing something that somebody in this board thinks is important that they see here, I'm more than happy to incorporate that in the goals package.
What's the pleasure of the board? Would you like to do that? To have more time
Yeah, I
to
think
go
so.
through these and then send suggestions or recommendations? I'm going to say through me, because I don't know when Caitlin will be back at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't want people to feel like they were under some sort of pressure to, so it's more of a review and reflect, and then if you had something that you wanted to share and you want to see, we can take care of that. So that's great. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay, next up, financial and budget update. Mr. Dowd.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Members of the board, my name is Jeff Dowd, as all of you know. In front of you, you have a brief summary, a one-page summary of the district's financial performance from last year ended 6/30/2019. I'll keep it brief, but that one-page summary has a consolidation of all of our three funds, our general fund, food service fund, and our grants fund. Total revenues of just shy of 26.2 million. Total expenditures just over 26 million, showing net revenue of 163,000. When you add that to our prior year unencumbered fund balance of 793,000, and of course, the prior year fund balance retention lapses as it did, so you add back the 200,000 that we were holding from last year, and you look at the difference in the current year versus the prior year encumbrances of 15,500, subtract out the current year fund balance retention, which this board voted on previously, you'll show a total unencumbered fund balance now of 721,000. And I think the district performed well to budget, and we had some areas, and you'll see just after that packet, you'll see a little bit more detailed revenue and expenditure information. We did well, I think, relative to budget. Some of the areas of highlight where we had some overages and some areas were a little bit tight. I'll direct your attention to the transportation lines on page 5 of that report, showing over in total of about 160,000 between special transportation and regular transportation. And we had done well in budgeting throughout the remaining accounts, and were able to find some areas to spend responsibly. One area that I will point out, you may want to keep an eye on for the current year, of course, are our tuitions, which are on the first page, both under 1100 563, about halfway down in that first column, and 1,200 in the 560 sections there as well for tuitions. We've had some opportunities there. May not always have those opportunities in the future. It really is the matter of one or two things going our way or not going our way. So in terms of where we have to place students. So if you have any questions on the current, in the year we just closed out, I'm more than happy to entertain them.
Do you ever do any type of trending year over year, like where we constantly see either negatives or positives in the accounts?
I do, yeah. Would you be interested in that report?
Would, just to know, for future budgeting, where are
Absolutely.
those places that we're seeing constant trend negative or constant trend positive?
Yep, yeah. We do have that type of report. I'm glad that you actually asked. I present this report. It's in a format that's common to what you're used to seeing. For budgetary purposes, it is a much more useful tool to see that trending and to see where we've budgeted, how we've budgeted, and where we've actually spent.
So will you have that at our next meeting then?
Yeah, as we were getting into the budget process, I think that'd be a useful
Yeah.
analytical
How far back
tool.
do you usually trend it?
It's more an issue of how much can I fit on the page.
That-
And then the question
You got
is,
like a 5-year trend at least, so,
I think I should be able to do that, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Unless anybody wants more, but,
Yeah, and typically when we're looking at this, we're looking at the next year's projected number, we're looking at the current year's budget, then we're looking at the year we just closed, budget versus actual, and then, so that's 3 or 4 columns right there. And then I would probably do spend for the previous 2 years,
okay.
so. Keep things tidy. I would like to, unless there are any other questions on finances, on the budgeting, last year's financials, any questions?
I don't.
What's other local revenue?
That comes from a number of different sources. And that's the 1,990 account, about halfway down. And it can come from any number of various sources if, fees are paid for something, or if you've had a check that doesn't clear and it goes back into revenue. That's probably a majority of what that is.
Okay,
It's not tuition or anything like that. It's,
okay.
we have nowhere else to put it, whatever it is. Well, and while I'm here, and if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I did want to point out that our climate control project at the Central School is complete, and I would like to extend and commend the facilities department. Obviously, I'm very, very excited. We have a facilities director starting October 1st. I'm exceptionally excited about that. But in the meantime, we've had a lot of people from our local facilities department be able to pick up the slack, make sure these things get done. So Marie Nicolosi in particular, Paul Ott, been instrumental in keeping things going and getting that project done next door, and Dan Burkett as well. And we had a very, very good fabricator, and if you've seen the structure that we've built to hold the air conditioners, my purpose was to make sure that they were safe, structurally sound. It's a difficult retrofit. I'm confident that they are going to be there for as long as they're needed in a safe manner. And I am very, very pleased that our facilities group is able to get all of their tasks done and be able to work through these special projects to make sure they were done satisfactorily, actually done very well to completion. Mr. Flynn, since coming on board, has also been able to help out locally. I'm not in the buildings. I'm not here on campus a lot, so on any of our campuses very often. So I just wanted to commend staff on that and bring that to the board's attention. So thank you.
Jeff, while you're there, I have this on the New Hampshire State Department of Education.
Yep.
They are for the chairperson to sign.
Mhm.
How do you want to handle this since it's...
We can chat after.
Huh?
I can chat with you after. Or did you want to sign as acting chair at the moment, right?
Well, I'm not really acting chair.
No.
I'm just vice chair because she's not here tonight.
Yeah. We expecting Caitlin to be out or not available?
We don't know for sure.
Okay.
Well, we'll discuss this later on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it here for now.
Very good.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Just this group insurance, is it like a negative 120,000? Is there something that just popped up? Is it anything that's, looking at years past trending?
So it's very interesting that you raise that up. So we receive and we obtain, I won't bore you with the details, we do obtain estimates, a guaranteed maximum rate is what it's called from our insurance carrier, so that we know what to expect for an increase in a subsequent year. We don't, that's not always what the budget number is, but this year they were pretty, or this particular year, they were pretty close. So when we budget that number and it doesn't change much, we don't have a lot of room. One of the things that I'm working to get a better handle on and be able to better budget is the impact of the amount that we subsidize our retirees' insurance. And that alone is probably about $100,000. And that is, I don't know who's going to retire, really.
Yep.
So that's been an area that has been growing. And
Okay.
I may call it out as a separate budget line this year to bring that out and be able to analyze how that's been performing. It's been ramping up in the
Right.
past. It's such a large number to begin with, the entire group insurance
Right.
line. I don't want to run it too much over, but it's been a little bit too close in years past.
Okay.
So I think we were in a similar situation last year as well. And when you think about it, that's only 2 or 3 policies,
Right,
you know, 100,000 over.
right. Thanks.
Good eye, though, Dave, good eye.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Dowd? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Metzler,
Great, so,
2021 budget development model.
Great. First, I want to thank Melissa for putting this chart together to give us somewhat a timeline to work within. This is a 2021 version of what you've done in the past. Did you have this in your packet?
I didn't provide
I-
comments in the packet.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Just me.
No.
What you'll be getting is it's a timeline, it's a spreadsheet. And so it's what we've used in the past. Now, I want you to think of mindset for a second. You know, Timberlane has our business office, I like everybody in the same mindset. So the budgeting process has been moved up considerably for the SAU, and, well, the SAU has always been early October, but for both Timberlane and Hampstead. So Principal Collins reminded me today that we're still on the Hampstead timeline. However, for mindset, to get everybody to wrap their heads around budgeting in the office, realize that that's the priority. We have the scheduling issue because we have all the departments and principals come in from both districts. We go through their budgeting. So that'll be done earlier perhaps than you've been accustomed to in the past. It doesn't change your time frame. I think some of the concepts, and I ran this by Madam Chair earlier this evening, is to make sure that we continue with you meeting with the individual people so you have a deep understanding of the budget. And so we've done that in the past. We're going to continue that practice. This will be new for some people because they've been accustomed to some other people doing this work, like, for instance, curriculum and technology, and certainly the assistant superintendent. So I'll be much more involved in this. I have no intention of changing the entire process. However, I've already put some pressure on them to get their numbers together sooner than perhaps they've been accustomed to in the past. So they're doing that. I'm meeting with them right now during this period, these couple of weeks, all the departments. So we're pulling numbers together. So I'll get this out to you, and you can take a look and see if this kind of time frame works for you. It's not different than what you've done in the past, unless you're new to this. I'm certainly open to new ideas. If there are things that, changes that you'd like to see, or adjustments, or those sorts of things, I'm certainly open to it. At the end of the day, we need to put together a budget that we can defend and support, that we can justify. And like I said, we're in the process right now of doing that, but I certainly want you very much involved in that process. Something I think that's new to the process, really, I think, those professional development staff members in HEA, the mentoring, and certainly curriculum, they're much more involved in the budgeting process than perhaps they have been in the past, which is new. So we have people literally in the trenches that are involved a little more, so they'll understand the budget more and be able to help just support and defend the numbers that we bring to the voters. So that's kind of where we are. So we've started the process, and I'll get this out to you, and like I said, we'll take a look and see how this works for you. And we can adjust it perhaps at our next meeting if need be. But this is really early for Hampstead to have this in your hands already.
Yeah. Usually what we've done for new members is, as Dr. Metzler said, we meet. We usually meet at the middle school with our, if you're a liaison to the school, like I'm the liaison to Central School, so I meet with Mr. Collins.
Mm-hmm.
He goes over his budget compared to what it was last year, what we're looking for next year, justifies the increases, explains the decreases, and that happens for everyone, for every department, for middle school, for special education, facilities. So we all sit around the table together, and we have a good understanding of what every single department is asking for. And that's helpful to get the big picture. And then we come back and we say, we come up with a number that we think is workable, that we can defend. We've always told, directed the administration, it was Roxanne Wilson who did that with the budget. We came up with a number that we could defend and asked her to start with a target. Keeping in mind, get rid of all the outside stuff first. Anything that doesn't directly impact children, if we need to cut, we cut that way so that the children are always a priority. Children and staff get what they need, funded through our budget. And I think that we'll probably do the same this year. After we see what everybody's needs are, the board will be able to sit down together and decide what can we actually defend to the public, and then have that discussion and proceed from there. But that's how it's done. It's very logical. It seems to have made a lot of sense. We've done it for many years this way. And I think it's easy and palatable for the public to understand how we got to the budget.
Which is good. And anytime you have new members, it's a new lens, right? So you may have a new lens or another way of looking at things, and certainly I'm open-minded to working that into what we do. I think the other thing, and I don't want to put Jeff in too much on the hot seat, is you can look forward to a default number much sooner than perhaps you have in the past, right? So our preparation would be to get those to you sooner. So you can get an idea what the default looks like with the justifications, and then that helps you understand kind of where you are, if it's, everything rolled, all the obligations minus the one-time expenses, and you know what that looks like, you can understand. And then we'd appreciate the target number whenever, as soon as you can get it to us, because we're already, working with that's the smaller items, right? We're working by school and department, but I think the sooner we get that, the easier it will be to help them prioritize their budgets, rather than wasting a lot of time with a lot of wish list kinds of things. We know what the target number is, that would be helpful.
And to ask every board member individually if you've seen, thought about anything which would be a budget priority for the upcoming year, let one of us know, and we can definitely see how it fits in a lot earlier in the process rather than later. So,
Okay, will do.
Yeah, even in our discussions already with Mr. Flynn and certainly Mr. Collins and the ones we look forward to, some of the things that they were talking about, we were able to kind of help steer them a little bit, because they may be headed down a path that perhaps either the board or the community is not ready for, or it's not something that we think we can support, so they don't spend a lot of time on that. I don't want to go into detail about that, but we're able to, through those discussions, kind of get them a little focused really early in the budgeting process, so that we can get that done, and you can move on to the rest of your work. So that's really, it's not any more complicated than that.
Okay,
Good.
good. Next thing is our policies. For first read, we'll move them on to a second read. There were only 6 of them, and they went very quickly. Policy GCCAE, which is professional staff visitation and conferences. Policy GC, another one, professional staff, last revised in 2013. GCB, professional staff contracts. GDO, evaluation of support staff. BBBE, unexpired term fulfillment. And IJOA, student trips. As I said, they were pretty straightforward. Both Jason and I were at that policy meeting along with Mr., just us.
Did you have a good meeting?
We did have a good meeting. Yep.
How long did that last?
It was a short meeting, actually, yes. You
I'd
can
like
tell.
to make a motion to accept
Because
the
it's-
policies on first read.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Board comments and correspondence, if any, from last meeting.
think I've attended a couple of the middle school games. Fared well in one. A couple of them we did not so much, but looking forward to a game tomorrow with the middle school soccer team.
Yeah.
The only other one I'd bring up is yesterday I volunteered at another school or another event in York, Maine, where the school 8th graders had decided, we talk about green, right? We want to be green. Their 8th grade students have developed a year-long program of sorts, and they're doing different events in the community. Like yesterday, they cleaned York Beach. If you've ever been to York, they've got 4 or 5 beaches, and there's a lot of them. So there was 100 some odd students. So it was really good to see that, and it'd be just interesting if we were ever to do something like that when we say we want to, you know, embrace being green or some sort of program. So I just thought I'd bring that up as just a notion or a thought for in the future.
Yep.
If I could? I believe we have in the past done something like that in Hampton Beach, I believe.
All right. Okay.
But it's certainly something we can take another look at. I think we took a look at field trips and time away from school and the timing and those sorts of things, so I'm not quite sure. They've made some executive decisions about what we, you know, so that's something, you know,
Yeah.
as we look at some of our goals, right?
Right.
That
Like I think the
might fit in.
students last night went to the either town board or their school board to bring back composting at their school. So they've developed, like, I think 5 or 6 goals they want this year amongst themselves as an 8th grade program that they want to do. It was just really good to see that the administration working with the students and, you know, bringing a program like that to life. So just it was really just good to hear.
It's a good model.
Yep.
I'm all set.
So, I'm all set also.
I'm all set as well.
Good. You're on consent
All
agenda.
right, so there is no personnel report tonight. I do have a report. So we are fortunate that our student liaison will be Emma Johnson again. So she has expressed interest in serving a second term, and Prinkinen has confirmed that she will be the student liaison. So she'll be here for her first meeting, I believe, on October 8th.
Oh, good.
So that's great. As Mr. Dowd alluded to earlier, our air conditioners have been installed. Our maintenance crew did a great job, but I also like to take it even a step further. You know, Ward Fabrication, our vendor, custom designed the units, how they're held in the windows, and I had to cut the holes and everything, and did a great job. But I think the other part about that, and I'll say it's Kelly Ward. Kelly Ward is a former board member who has a business in terms of fabrication of metals, but paid this district an exceptional compliment in our security and safety. He was really impressed with how seriously we take it, and you know, he was escorted in and escorted down to the place where they work with his crew, and took the time to reach out to say, you know, I was really impressed. You know, we have security measures obviously in both districts, but and he's been in both districts, but you know, was just very, very impressed. So I thought that was important to share. That's the hard work of this board, and obviously administrative staff and teachers and paras and students. We've been working really hard at the safety thing for quite some time now, and you know, we do a really good job, and we can do a better job. We're going to continue to improve, but you know, it's nice when somebody from the outside comes in with a different lens and says, wow, I'm very impressed with the way and that's the Central School. So Principal Collins and staff, again, great job. Behavior management, the update, you know, in terms of working on that. I know Mr. Flynn is working on that with the principals and getting that professional development in place and sharing that philosophical message through our policies, through the board, through our administrative staff. So we're looking forward to see an update on that in the near future about kind of where we were, where we are, and where we're going with, you know, how we manage behavior in our classrooms and what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. So we put that on a back burner. PA contract, I reached out to Dr. Powers. They're meeting Thursday night, and so that should be all set. We didn't see any issue with it, so he has confirmed that, so that's great. Our HSLT, it's the Hampstead, used to be ASLT, Assistant Superintendent's Leadership Team. It's Hampstead Superintendent's Leadership Team. You know, we reconvened with our new team, and that's myself, Mr. Flynn, Mr. Dowd, Ms. Louiselle, Ms. Gallagher, and so we're going to continue those Monday meetings of getting ready for our board meetings and certainly taking, you know, your directives and making sure that we work closely with the administrative staff. Those meetings take place at the SAU, and so that's in addition to H-Team. So that's like you know, making sure that our presentations and things are presentation ready or are ready for the board, and making sure that your directives are being met through those presentations. So that's just another layer of making sure that we get that done. The Hampstead Central School Construction Renovation Committee meeting, that's going to be October 3rd. I believe we've sent some emails. We agreed at 12:30, right?
Yeah.
12:30 on the 3rd, which is Thursday, next Thursday. I believe it'll be in the boardroom at the SAU, which, that's where we've met in the past. We need a lot of room, so we get a chance to spread out. That'll be, again, next Thursday at 12:30. Something should be coming out of it, hasn't already, invitation or, right, to make sure, right, that you've been
Make
invited.
sure that that's been done.
Okay. Some things to look forward to in our next meeting. We should have our Pinkin enrollment numbers at the October 8th meeting. And also, we want to remind the board about the New Hampshire School Board Association resolutions deadline. That's November 4th. So in the event that you're going to write a resolution, I want to try to get that in sooner than later. All right. And that's my report and consent agenda. And obviously, you need a motion to ratify all the items in addition to reviewing and approving the financial items. Unless you have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Good, thank you.
I don't know who the question's for. Our contracts negotiations have started, is that correct?
Contract negotiations?
I think,
The Haas.
okay, Haas has started?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need any kind of non-public for an update on that at this point?
I don't believe so at this point, no.
Okay. Good. Can I have a motion, please, to accept all the items in the consent agenda?
Motion.
What?
Yeah.
Motion.
Oh, second.
Yeah. Any discussion, any other questions for Dr. Metzler? Yes?
Thank you. You've been put through a lot. And we do appreciate on this board the effort that you put in. You thank us a lot for what we do for you and for the administration, but at the same token, on the same token, thank you for what you provide to us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned at 8:10. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cable.